What's up, guys? Alton here. Alright, so I just did a video about Donald Trump moving the capital of Israel to Jerusalem. So what I want to do is I want to kind of explain why there's so much outrage over this. And it's coming from my perspective. And this is based off of sources that I've known, people who I know, things that I've read, and also passages that come from the Bible. So let's go ahead, let's discuss this with an open mind. And at the end of the video, if any of you guys who are living in Israel or in the Middle East and you have some knowledge about this, please go ahead and share with me in the comment section below, and let's discuss it. Let's just start from the beginning. Now, we all know around the time of the Exodus, the people of Israel, they were taken out of Egypt, or they were led out of Egypt by Moses, and they were led into their own land, which is Israel today. Now, Israel is named after one of Abraham's, I think it's Abraham's grandson or great-grandson, Joseph. So, his name was called Israel, and the people of Israel derived from the lineage of Abraham. And when they were led out of Egypt, they were led into this land, and God basically said, I'm going to give you guys this land, and as long as you guys don't defile it, everything is going to be okay. I will be your God, and I would be the one who was the ruler over you guys, instead of men and clans and stuff like that. And he said, well, if you disobey me, I'm basically going to give you guys into the hands of some of these other surrounding people that's just in the area. So anyway, make a long story short, the people of Israel are there, and up until a little bit after King David's time, the people of Israel began to rebel. Now, they had already started being led astray, especially by Solomon. He brought in foreign women, he brought in people, he brought in foreign idols and all of that type of stuff. They went to worship him Baal and all of these false gods. And God basically just poured out his plagues, poured out his judgment on Israel. And he continued to tell the people of Israel, if they continue to sin, that they will be basically given to the hands of their enemies. After the people had continued to disobey God, in the book of Isaiah, God basically gives the words to Isaiah, and he starts to prophesy what is going to happen to the people of Israel if they continue to sin. But by this time, it was kind of too late. The people were just really deep in their sin and their transgression, which led the Babylonians to come in and basically take over that part of the world, which included Jerusalem, which included Israel. So the Babylonians came in. God gave the people of Israel into the hands of the Babylonians. They took over. We all know what happened with Daniel. Daniel tells Nebuchadnezzar a dream, and he's basically talking about all of the nations that are to come after the Babylonian Empire. So he said that he tells Nebuchadnezzar, you are the strongest, most powerful nation that has ever been over the planet and that ever will be. No other nation will have as much power as you guys. And I mean, as we see historically, the Babylonians have been the most powerful nation in the world. Despite even what you see today, people look at America and they think that America is the most powerful nation. But it has nothing in comparison to the Babylonians. Now, after the Babylonians were in Israel, the Persians came in and they defeated Israel. Now, let me go ahead and stop right now. When the Babylonians came in, they plundered a lot of stuff from Israel. They took a lot of gold. They tore down the temple and I'm going to get to that later in this video. They tore down the temple the first time. The Persians came in after, and they ruled over the people of Israel for, I can't remember how many years, how many hundreds of years, but they were there. And the Persians actually helped build the temple a second time. So the Persians were there. They were succeeded by the Greeks. The Greeks came in after the Persians, and the Romans came in after the Greeks. Now, when the Romans came in around, I'll probably say right before the turn of the century, within the first 100 years, we have the life, death, burial, resurrection of Christ. Now, also in Isaiah, God prophesied that there would be a Messiah who would come and he would save the sins of man. But of course, the people of Israel rejected Christ, and they thought that Christ was just going to come in. He was going to drive out the Romans, and Israel will go back being the state that it was. But that's not what was Jesus's purpose. He wasn't here to come and make everything sweet for the people of Israel. So, of course, the people of Israel rejected Christ. Christ dies on the cross. He resurrects on the third day. He lives for an additional 40 days. And during this time, the people of Israel are under Roman rule. And that's how they were able to go through with the crucifixion. So anyway, around 70 AD, you have Emperor Nero. Now, Nero, he persecuted the Christians heavily. Okay, I mean, the Christian people, I don't think that they've ever been as heavily persecuted as they were during the time of Nero. So he comes in, persecutes the Christians, and if I'm not mistaken, I think he was the one who tore down the temple that is currently in Jerusalem right now that lays in ruins. After that happened, the people of Israel began to disperse. They started moving out of Israel because of all the persecution that was going on. A lot of people went into exile. The Apostle John actually went into exile in the island of Patmos, which is, I think it's in Greece. It's somewhere around Greece. But anyway, after you had that happen, the Romans continued to rule in that area, especially where Jerusalem was, and a lot of the Jews left. They just kind of dispersed. And this was something that was prophesied in the Bible, that they would be dispersed and Israel would become a desolate land. So around the 600s, I'll probably say around 650 AD, you had the Muslims. They were going around and they were conquering a lot of people, a lot of lands in that area. And one of those lands ended up being Jerusalem. Now, this is where the things that we're starting to see, or this is what the outrage is about right now. You had a lot of Muslims who had gone in, they took over Israel, took over Jerusalem, I would say, and over there in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. Now, when people talk about the Crusades, they want to talk about Christians and all of this stuff, and the Christians started the Crusades. That's actually a lie. The Muslims had gone in and they occupied Jerusalem. So the people of Israel reached out to the Catholic Church, who had an army at the time called the Knights Templar. Now, this is around 1000 AD. They reach out to the Knights Templar and they say, hey, we've been taken over by the Muslims. We need you guys to help us drive them out. So the Knights Templar and the Catholic Church, they go into Jerusalem. They start to run out as many Muslims as they can. There are reports that the Catholic Church started persecuting a lot of people in Israel, the Jews and stuff like that. So it's just been all chaotic in Jerusalem, over this piece of land. But see, here's the problem. There have been Muslims living in the city of Jerusalem for over 1,000 years. Okay, so these are people who can trace their lineage back over 1,000 years, almost back to the time of Muhammad. Not only that, the Muslim people who are in Jerusalem right now have a mosque. And that mosque sits on the ruins of some of Temple Mount, which is a problem because you have a mosque which is one of the most well-known mosques in Islam sitting right there in the capital of Jerusalem. Now you have a lot of people, the Palestinians, who live there currently. And Palestine is more like a country within a country. So they have their own land, and they have their own rules, and they have their own judicial system, stuff like that. It's like if you live here in America, you have like the Indian reservations, to where the Indians, or the Native Americans, I should say, to be politically correct, they have their own sets of rules and laws, and they kind of govern themselves like their own country. So whenever, if someone commits a crime on the Indian reservation, then they are trying to prosecute it through their own court. They don't go through the American court. Now, only if they commit a crime outside of the reservation, then they are tried and persecuted by American law. And it's basically, it's not really the same thing. With Palestine, it's a little different, but Palestine is like its own country. It's its own land. But it's still within Israel. You know, you have like the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. That's why you always see so many problems between those two areas. You know, you got Hamas and all of that stuff. But the thing is, Israel has one of the most strongest militaries in the world. Okay, now they're a very small nation, but they have one of the most powerful militaries in the world. And I mean, don't get that twisted. They're packing some heat. But the problem is, Israel wants to control everything that is within the border of Israel. Now, based on my speculation, they're trying to drive the Palestinian people out. They're trying to drive them out of the West Bank, and they're trying to drive them out of Jerusalem. But here's the problem. Just like I said earlier, you have these people who've been living there for 1,000 years. Now, a lot of conspiracy theorists have speculated that the people of Israel want to rebuild Temple Mount. And in a way, I kind of believe that. But the problem is that you have a mosque sitting on some of those ruins. So in order to rebuild the temple for the third time, which a lot of people will say, if the temple is rebuilt for the third time, then, you know, Christ is going to come back and they're going to start, or before Christ comes back, people are going to start doing animal sacrifices and all of that stuff again. The abomination of desolation is going to be put there, and the abomination of desolation is basically a statue of a person. And it would be interesting if they did actually rebuild the temple and put Trump's statue there, right there at Temple Mount. Then that would be pretty interesting. Then I will probably say that, yeah, I think prophecy is starting to be fulfilled. But anyway, by Trump making this decision to move the capital of Israel to Jerusalem instead of Tel Aviv, what you're basically saying is Israel will now have full control over the city of Jerusalem. So what will happen is that Palestine will not be Palestine anymore. And from some of the documentaries that I've seen and some of the reports that I've read, the Israeli government has been trying to move the people out of Palestine for a very long time. I've heard that they've been trying to bulldoze their homes and, you know, stuff like that. It's just been one big mess. But with Trump basically making this decision, you're now saying the people of Palestine could be kicked out of their land that they've had for a very long time by basically telling the Israeli government that, hey, this is the capital. Jerusalem is now the capital. Because like I said before, all of Jerusalem is not Israel. Some of it and parts of it is actually part of Palestine. So by making Jerusalem the capital, then that means you have to move the Palestinians out, or that the Israeli government can move the Palestinians out. So that is what's going on. But the Bible had spoken on this before. And God continued to warn the people of Israel back then that if you guys continue to disobey my statutes, you continue to disobey my word, you're going to have people that are going to come in and are going to settle into your land, and they're going to be a thorn in your side. And that's what we're seeing with the Palestinians. Now, let's just be clear. Israel is not a holy land. Okay, God is not in Israel. So for people to, you have some people who are Zionists and all of that stuff, or Christian Zionists. Israel is not a holy place. God is not dwelling with those people. In fact, Israel, Jerusalem itself, is a very secular nation. Okay, it's a very secular nation. There's a lot of people there who don't really believe in God. You may see the Hasidic Jews with the top hats and the curly sideburns. You may see people with the yarmulkes and stuff like that at the Wailing Wall. And people, they want you to think, some people want you to think that it's such a holy land, but it's really not. And God is not in that country. So with the people of Israel trying to take over the land that has been basically occupied by the Palestinians, that's a call that I can't sit back and say that it is right to move them out. And I can't really say that it's right that they have occupied that land. But at the same time, if I had to take a side, based on the Bible, I would say that it would be wrong to move the people out of Palestine. That's just me. That's just me. That's just my opinion. My opinion, really doesn't mean nothing, and it's not even worth 2 cents. But I'm just saying, based on the Bible and knowing the history of Israel biblically, the people of Israel have no reason, or they have no right to move the Palestinian people out of Jerusalem. Now, when it comes to the Christian, just like I said in my last video, this might not be prophecy being fulfilled. This could be prophecy being fulfilled. But our job is to continue to spread the gospel. Continue to get the gospel out there. We're not here to try to figure out what is prophecy being fulfilled, who's doing what. What we're here to do is we're here to spread the gospel. Let the world know about Christ. Because when Christ comes back, He's going to crush everything that we see here on earth. Everything that stands, all of these buildings, Jerusalem itself, the temple, the mosque, all of that stuff is just going to be wiped out. And it's not even going to matter. So that's why I say, the people of Israel trying to go in and move the people of Palestine out, it's not going to do anything. You're just going to end up sinning, creating more sin, and actually provoking the Lord to more anger. So that's basically my 2 cents on this video, guys. As always, if you guys like what you heard, comment, rate, share, subscribe. And like I said, man, leave me a comment. Leave me some comments in the comment section below, because if I'm totally off or if I'm partly right, if there's more to the story, you guys let me know. I would love to hear from those, especially who are in Israel, or those who are Palestinian. And I just want to make sure I'm putting the facts out there, man. But like I said, this is my opinion based on what I'm seeing here, the reports that I'm seeing here in America. But as always, you guys have a blessed day.